What do you guys wear?
Some Nikes. We always keep Nikes on our feet, man. Always, always. Hey, be safe, man. It's great seeing you, Locks. No, man.
Is so much about not fighting or being smart enough. It's like basically work smart, not hard. So what is your?
I mean, that's one piece.
Yeah.
Preparation to me more than anything, right? Like you win the battle before the battle's ever won, right? That's probably the biggest theme to me that you walk out of that one.
Men as you would your sons, and they will go into the deepest valley.
There you go. Absolutely.
Warrior was a big hardcore guy.
It's good, man.
The whole thing in the playbook.
It's good, and it's not long. It's an easy one to buzz through. Yeah.
I just think it's funny because it reminds me of pass rush. Like, what's the guy who's most likely the second quarterback? The one the offense forgot to block. Like,
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. We able to open it up? Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah, I think all that's, really a future conversation. I know, personally in the Big Ten, every one of our coaches were pushing for a little bit more. And I think the part that kind of gets lost in this are the guys that aren't going to get an opportunity to be a part of college football team anymore. You talk about our team right now, it's roughly 130 guys. Well, there's a lot of guys that aren't necessarily going to get a chance to play college football, a lot of walk-ons that won't necessarily exist for your team anymore. And that's a little bit of the shame in it, what you're going to lose from that standpoint. What it looks like from limits in the future, I know we'll always challenge ourselves to be at the top when it comes to that. Yeah, just that, right? The expectations outside of our room really don't matter. It's about our performance on the field, and we're the ones that control results, right? So we have to focus on what we can do to control results. Someone's opinion isn't going to do that, right? Our performance is. Say it one more time. Yeah, just that. Unfamiliar. When you've played a team or traveled to a certain location and understood where the student section is and some of those things, all those things kind of weigh in. Over time, you get comfortable and you have an understanding of what it'll look like. It's different from that standpoint because a lot of these will be brand new for us. And playing a team in person is a little bit different than just watching them on film, right? Understanding like the dynamics of the atmosphere. That all said, they're going to be unfamiliar with us too. So there's some comfort in that. Yeah, I don't think that there's really a disadvantage. We got to go play football games, and I think that'll be a challenge for anybody that gets to play us, and it'll certainly be a challenge that we're excited about when we play our opponents. Yeah. That's probably further ahead than I'm looking right now. I don't know exactly what that'll all look like, and some of the legislation still has to pass. My understanding how that's distributed between teams, I don't know exactly what that'll look like. Probably reevaluated after the season. I don't have an answer for that right now. Really focused on Wednesday, fall camp, first practice. Well, just that you have to be relentless from that standpoint. It's like shaving; you got to do it every day. You start to look bad. That, and you're gonna every detail matters. We always say 1 + 1 + 1, right? It's not just the meals that they have on their visit. It's not just the evaluation process. It's not just the cool graphic that they might get or the connection with the parents. Like all those things add up. Right, and all those things are the things that you have to try to separate yourself in when it comes to winning a battle. So not necessarily specific to the SEC, but what do those battles look like? I think it's really important that carries over to what our footprint is.
Are there teams in the Big Ten that remind you of what it's like to recruit in the SEC?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, in general, I think there's teams that are here on a national stage that are competing at a national level. And there's some of those teams in the SEC. I wouldn't say the whole SEC is that either, right? There's some prominent teams in that league that do an unbelievable job, and there's some teams here in this conference that do an unbelievable job. And that's part of the battle. That's part of the fun.
Jay, you went on Max today. You're joking. It's great that Georgia gets all those recruits without using NIL. Does it bother you that people ascribe your recruiting success to having Phil Knight nearby?
I really don't care what people think. Right? I just want to win, and I know the reality of what our situation is here. There's not a top 10 program in the nation that's not funded and in a good position to compete, or they wouldn't be a top 10 program. That being said, there's a lot of other factors that add up to that success.
But you had two years ago, though, that when you said of the staff, it was billed as a recruiting first staff.
Right.
Now you're in year
I would say it was built as a relationship first staff.
and I don't control everybody else's headlines, but it doesn't matter. That in year 3, with those relationships, it would seem like you're starting to get the fruits of that labor, and now all of a sudden everybody wants to turn it into, well, now they're not actually recruiters, they're just purchasing.
Yeah. I'm not really concerned about other people's opinions because I know the truth.
What's the hardest position to find somebody who's ready to make a play?
I think there's two different things. Hardest position group to find, I think it's really hard to find great defensive linemen, great offensive linemen, right? And those are both positions that are hard to play early in, right? Because it takes some development, some toughness, a lot of work from that front, to get there. But that being said, college football is hard. Like being a quarterback and being able to come play at an early age is tough as well. So I don't know that there's one of the others. It really depends on each kid and situation.
Carlos Lockman moved on to a Big Ten foe. What really stood out about him when he was coaching for you in Oregon?
Say it again.
Carlos Lockman.
Yes.
I mean, he moved on to a Big Ten foe. I mean, what really stood out about
He did a great job for us. Worked hard, was certainly about relationships. Grateful for his time that he spent with us and excited to see what he does in the future.
How did you learn how to identify a good prospect in the trenches on either side?
You watch a lot of film, but then also the process of development, getting your hands on, getting to see these guys in camp. Our coaches traveled to over 23 satellite camps this offseason. We have camps on our campus. They went to 321 different, off-school sites, this past year when it comes to like the spring window, evaluating film, consistently, being able to watch that and making phone calls, talking to people within programs, talking to high school coaches, talking to people around the players.
It's not just watching them, it's how you watch, right? So how did you develop that skill?
Time, right? It's not necessarily like the 10,000 hour rule, right? But what are the attributes you're looking for at each position? What do you have an interest in? What makes your system tick? And then can you adapt your system to those players?
Coach, in terms of just year 3, what you wanted, the vision you had for this program when you first came here, how close are to that? And especially with the way Phil said, limited NIL.
I don't know that Phil ever said that. I think anybody that thinks that that's reality isn't living in a real world.
Yeah.
What player would we miss on if we had that?
Exactly.
What do you want to make?
Exactly.
What should I pay? I'll pay myself this year. I'm gonna pay this is not realistic, right? But are we well taken care of? And where are we at from a standpoint of are we close to where I expect this to be? We've seen constant growth for our team every single year. That's been fun. There's a clear goal, right, for us and where we want to be. We're not there yet, so that's part of the process. And are we there yet? When I was at Georgia my last year, we won a national championship. I couldn't have told you before the season started we were going to win one, right? And even going into that year, I think we had one player on defense that was preseason all-conference. How much does that matter? It doesn't. We had 5 guys on that defense drafted in the first round. So everyone sits around and has an expectation for what you should do and what you'll achieve. The reality is the games still have to be played, and those things have to happen. Am I excited and happy with where we're at from a growth standpoint to this point? Absolutely. Is the job done yet? Absolutely not.
And when it comes to Dylan, obviously the last 2 quarterbacks you had, very mobile, very athletic, great arm talent. How do you kind of protect him from himself? Because obviously Oklahoma, UCF, big, long touchdown runs. How do you kind of manage his willingness to want to try to make every play and kind of also play with any offense?
Yeah, just having a really clear vision. If you look at Bo from year 1 to year 2 for us, he was 2 different players. What we needed him to do year 1 to win games and what he did in year 2, we used him in a lot of different ways. So it's about Dylan understanding what we expect from him. When's a yard worth fighting for, and when is it okay to, slide or take a knee. And I think that's something that just happens with time and us doing a good job of clear expectations for him.
Coach, you talked about the certain books that you had, the Art of War and things of that nature. Why were those books very important? Were the other books that you had throughout the season?
Yeah, it's not about like how many books can I read, but for me, it's something over time that I really didn't love early. I started with audiobooks and I said, okay, this is a place where I can actually get better and improve. There's some knowledge in here that it can share, and if it can just improve me in one area of my life, then maybe it's something that could carry over. And then being able to turn that around and share it with the team, I think, has been something that's been really impactful for us. So, Art of War this year, Hidden Potential, last year, Good to Great. There's been some other books along the way. I really enjoy Malcolm Gladwell books. I think there's a lot of pieces in there that can carry over to what it takes to become excellent. But those are things I'm always going to try to draw from somewhere else for a little bit of inspiration and what that might look like for our team.
You mentioned that it's not just the SEC. Everyone is recruiting all the time, right? But it seems like they have more programs who are either at the level that people are aspiring to be or are closer. But why is that?
Well, I think, one, you just talk about location of players and talent. When you go look in the NFL, you're going to see more players from Florida, Georgia, Texas, right, in that region of the country, especially when it comes to defensive linemen, right? There's bigger bodies in those areas. But now that location isn't the only factor that matters, right? When you're able to travel to some of these other places, I think that creates more opportunities for other schools.
Do you think it helps you to have a history or a foot in those areas?
Yeah, there's certainly a benefit. Relationships pay off, right? And work ethic, is even more valuable. So if you're willing to work at it, I think you can go sign great players. And
the location part is not sure up in Oregon and not
yeah,
there in that area. Is that a fight?
for sure. Yeah, I think it's a real challenge, and that's part of the process for us is identifying, okay, what's the reality of this person being able to come here? And there's a lot of times you might win the battle and the kid wants to be there. Will his parents support that? I always talk to players about not picking the most convenient decision, but picking the best. There always might be a more convenient option that's right in your back door, but that doesn't mean it's the best option for you. So what's that mean we're looking for? Guys that are growth-oriented, that want to go to a place that they dreamed about being able to go, and don't mind that might not be the most convenient option, right? I didn't take the most convenient path to become the coach at Oregon. It wasn't easy to live in 8 different states for my family, but the sacrifice was worth it. And I think you try to find some players that have that mantra.
Is that message more prominent now than maybe ever had to have that conversation?
I think it's something for us to be successful at Oregon that it certainly has to exist, right? If we just recruited the state of Oregon, our football team wouldn't look like it looks today, right? We have to be able to leave outside and go into states like Texas and go to California and go in the Southeast to go find great players. And wherever there's great players, those are the kind of players we want on our team.
Joe, Ohio State and Michigan have won the last 7 Big Ten championships between the two of them. What are your view of those programs, and excited to have your program stack up against them? I know the one on October 12th everybody has circled.
Yeah, I've got great admiration and respect for those guys. The job that they've done, the games that they've won. I think that's what makes this conference so great is you're going to have some great matchups within the season as well, and we're certainly looking forward to competing. Yeah, that's going to be a process for us that we have to evaluate after each game. And I've spent a lot of time talking to NFL coaches this offseason about what that looks like. It's about knowing your players too. Like how much information can they take? There's some quarterbacks in the league that you can tell them everything possible and they're able to take that information, break it down, and utilize it. There's some when you tell them one thing that it's going to give them one thing too many. So it's about finding what our players can handle and letting them play fast, and then doing a good job of having open lines of communication about that process. I mean, we visited with a ton of different coaches. Andy Reid, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I sat down with Andy Reid and talked about it a little bit.
What allows Jeff to marry style and substance the way he does?
Say it one more time.
What allows Jeff to marry style and substance the way he does? That off the field that he can dress the way he does, that he can rent Lamborghinis when he's out there, while he's also in LA.
Sounds like a Jeff question to me.
But he's also got my point is he also goes to a gym while he's doing it. It's a celebrity gym plus got us because he's working with the kid.
Yeah, you got to ask Jeff, I guess. Yeah, that's been a real topic of discussion for us. I think that's really on us as coaches. Your team has to be prepared. You have to have great depth, to be able to do that. But at the same note, you're going to have to make some small adjustments when it comes to your practice schedule. What's important? Where's that contact need to happen or not happen? Towards the end of the year. But we'll adapt as we get to that point. You have to have a really good feel for your team. We're really fortunate at Oregon to have a great sports performance, department that really monitors our team's levels throughout the season. So we're able to kind of be ahead of injuries before they happen. And as long as we continue to have great communication between them and our weight room staff, I think we'll be able to be healthy at the end of the year. I think any experience that I've had certainly helps with that. Being at Sam Houston State and playing the semifinals certainly helps with that.
Because of that, Lincoln talked about this yesterday. Do you foresee you could actually get to the point where you, like the NFL, you may actually rest players?
And, I think that's something you have to assess as you get there. Our goal will certainly be to win every game. Every one of them matter to us. Like being able to be a part of a conference championship matters to us. Winning a conference, like those things matter to us. So there won't be a game that we say, okay, this one's not important. Let's pass it down the line. I don't see that necessarily happening. Assessing how you play your players, I think that's something that you have to continue to do every single week. And you already do that to a sense with red shirt rules and when guys can play or not play. I think that's something we'll always measure.
As you enter a league with some teams that play with heavier personnel groupings, does that influence how you and your staff look for high school body types in the trenches?
Yeah, again, for us, it really doesn't change how we recruit, what I feel like you have to be successful to win. Certainly we might see some of that, but I think also people discredit maybe what we saw at Utah and Oregon State and some of the programs that already played 21 and 12 personnel. I believe in a format that is winning football and what kind of players you need to win football games, and that'll definitely matter at the end of the year. So we want to recruit size, we want to recruit speed, and it's not just because of the conference that we're in.
As a quick follow-up, in an era where guys may not stay 4 years or 5 years like they used to, is there more of an emphasis to recruit size earlier as opposed to recruiting a guy that might be able to put on size over the course of time?
I will say that the way that recruiting has turned, it's probably made it where projections are something you would do less. And when it comes to a recruiting standpoint, those guys that were projections before now may become like portal guys, as opposed to guys that you think that can develop pretty quick.
What will your offense look like?
It should be very exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Dylan does. I'm impressed with his knowledge and ability to pick up what we do. It's certainly different than what he's done before. Part of our job as coaches is to figure out what Dylan does best, and I think you figure that out through reps. What plays is he most comfortable with? Who does he feel great about targeting? What can he audible? We were able to give Bo a whole lot of the reins to this offense where he's able to change plays. Those are some things that Dylan hasn't done as much that I think he's really excited to do, and we're excited to see him do.
How much of this talk about what's in your NIL bank account do you think stems from insecurity from other places?
Yeah, I think generally when somebody doesn't win in recruiting, it's easy to throw out an excuse that doesn't really fit their narrative, right? And I think it's easy to say the low-hanging fruit is, well, it didn't work out for us. They must have beat me because of it. We lose recruiting battles, and what we do is we say, okay, why did we lose? What do they have this? And you don't really worry about who you don't get, right? You worry about the ones you do get. But I can't speak to somebody else's thoughts or preconceived notions. I don't know that, but I'm not really worried about it.
Terrence and Jeffrey just said that when it comes to the expectations and kind of the outside noise, they kind of block it out. Is that something that you install on them, or they kind of do that on their own?
Yeah, we kind of have a theme in our program called FIBU, and it really, that's what it means, right? It means don't worry about what everybody else thinks, right? We're focused on the people in our room and what our expectations are for our own team.
Dan, you traveled with Big House this year. You played against Michigan when you were at Georgia. You were at the national championship. What are kind of your expectations for a game like that?
Yeah, that they're a phenomenal program. I know Sharon's done an unbelievable job. Obviously, they've built something over time there that has sustaining power. I got an opportunity to compete against them in the Orange Bowl when I was at Georgia, and I haven't actually been to Ann Arbor, to see that. So that'll be a fun experience, a fun venue for us, but certainly a team worthy of competing against.
Sorry to stay in the city, but what's your impression of Jonathan Smith as a coach, having gone against him? Just staples of what you expect to see.
Yeah, I think Jonathan does an unbelievable job of developing a team. He's been a part of a lot of cultures where they had to grow a team, and I know that he'll be able to do some of those same things at Michigan State. I think he's authentic. He is who he is. He's not trying to pretend to be somebody else. You certainly appreciate that, and he's at the end of the day, he's just a good person that's going to get the best out of his situation and the guys that he has there.
How much film have you? Go ahead.
What changed from the last year where just shy of a year ago, the move to the Big Ten being official, on the recruiting trail, a year ago, certain schools could use that against you. But for the last year, you've been able to use that to say everything's leveling out in your view. How has the last 15 weeks seen that change?
Yeah, when you have teams try to poke holes into what's not good in a situation, there's a lot of things that's hard to poke holes in when it comes to Oregon. Well, once we had clarity about our conference and the direction that we're headed, I think that solidified a lot of things for our future. You didn't have to talk about the what ifs, you just talk about the reality, right, where we're headed. It also allowed us to recruit in different regions of the country that we haven't necessarily touched yet, but now will be a little bit more of our footprint.
What recruiting battles among teams in this conference outside of the LA school? How has those changed over the last year?
Just really same answer.
Was there any part of the Pac-12 mess?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was certainly some some fun moments in that league. I think you just saw the best version of the Pac-12 this past year. You know, you look at the draft, you see that. You look at the seasons some of these teams had, you'll see that. There's a lot of fun when it came to that. But college football has probably never been more exciting than it is right now, and I'm glad that it's really clear where we're headed and what we get to be a part of.
What did you learn during your time in the SEC about not just the recruiting part, but like how to operate a championship program on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, it started really with my time in Coach Saban and seeing that there's a blueprint, right? And then going with Coach Smart and seeing how that blueprint can adapt, right? And it can adjust to your team, what's important for the place you're at. So being able to pull from those, two places on what organization looks like, what's a daily schedule look like, that certainly has helped me in my career here.
Is there a difference really, mindset-wise of building a good SEC team as opposed to building an elite college football team like Ohio State or an Alabama?
Sam, you're hammering what I've been saying, man. Just build a great team. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. Build a great team, because to get at the end of the year, you need a great team. And they throw those conferences out at the end of the year when it matters, right? So that's our focus. At Oregon, we've been trying to build a great team regardless of conference. You need to be strong in the trenches. You need to have great players outside. You need to have great quarterback play. You got to play solid defense. Like, all those things matter. And that's what our intention's been.
One of the quick, Dylan Gabriel, when you get a guy like that, is it like getting a guy who is in doctorate school or something, and you understand there's some things you don't have to teach him, some things you do? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I'd say he's more like high-level masters, right? But, yeah, he has an experience. I think if you look at the best quarterbacks in college football last year, you see guys that had a lot of experience. Dylan has that, right? So that gives him an opportunity, a leg up to maybe understand. This term might have been called something different where he was at before, but he can translate it really quick and know how he's going to read that.
Dante behind him, obviously he started at UCLA last year. You guys, conversations, bringing him in along with Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Dante came here with really clear expectations of how can he become the best player he can possibly be. I think he's been really satisfied with his growth. I think he has an awareness and a realization, too, of looking around college football and seeing a lot of guys that were 5th, 6 years COVID seniors last year and saying those are the guys that perform the best. It's not about getting thrown in the fire. It's about being ready when you do. And when you're open and honest with your players about, hey, I've got high expectations for Dante as well, but that's part of the development and what that's going to look like. And we can't predict the future. He might be a guy that we have to lean on this year and be able to use.
You mentioned how, right, if you lose your recruiting battle right now, the low-hanging fruit is NIL.
Yeah.
At the same time, how do you embrace that, right? Because just because of the nature of the sport at this point, you can't embrace it, making clear that there will be good opportunities at Oregon if you do play in the team.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. I think, again, like I said, any team that's operating at a high level right now has great opportunities, right? And that's something that if you'd be silly not to embrace what exists there, our affiliation with the programs around our university, what make us so special. Yeah, that exists. You have to be, to not see that, to not see what exists at our Oregon and see what Sabrina Neskew's been able to do in the, WNBA or Kayvon Thibodeau's done with the Giants, and being affiliated with Oregon, it helped them. Right, it helped them be able to accomplish some of those goals. Yeah, they're relentless. They do a great job. I think they do a good job of identifying talent early. Do a great job of getting guys on campus. So they've done a great job there. Yeah, I'm really indifferent. It's just because it's not something I control. Yeah, again, it's not something I can control. So, getting upset about it wouldn't do anything for me. Great opportunity for us to prove what kind of team we are.
To your point about relationships, how do you make a kid from Georgia, Florida, etc., feel a tinge of Southern hospitality way up north?
Yeah, just be authentic, be who you are, and be diligent about that process. Be engaged, spend the time necessary. You're not going to get to know somebody through one phone call, right? It might be a FaceTime, it might be a Zoom, right? It might be an interaction on campus. It's coming to see them. When you get an opportunity to be on the road as a coach. So trying to take advantage of all those things and add those things up.
What does your gut tell you about how special this team might be?
I think it's too early to know, right? It feels like I just kind of ate the meal and we got to see how it settles. Yeah, I feel really good about this team. I think I've told people that this is as talented a team as we've had, here at Oregon. But becoming a team is a different piece of that. And I'm definitely excited about the direction that we're headed. Feel good with our progress over the summer. Feel like we have some really good leaders on the team. But it still has to come together. It's still a little early.
How much film have you watched? I think you mentioned summer scouting.
Yeah.
Big Ten opponents. And what do you see when you watch these?
Some impressive teams, right? I think there's phenomenal coaches in our league. There's obviously some phenomenal players. You talk about the amount of guys drafted out of this conference last year. But you see some teams that were built to last, which is exciting. There's going to be some tough scheme challenges. And then there's some things that we don't know yet that we're going to find out in the middle of the year that we have to be ready to adapt to. Yeah, I think it was clear early that he didn't want to have a prolonged process. I think it's a happy marriage because I think at the end of the day, I think Dylan knew where he hoped he could end up as well. So I don't know, what it would have meant for other teams. I don't necessarily care what their situation was, but at the end of the day, I think Dylan wanted to be at Oregon, and we certainly wanted him here with us. Again, there was a little bit of being familiar with each other from my time before at Georgia and those conversations. And then, again, I could hop on the road early in the process to be able to go see him, quickly and touch base with him. We did that immediately. As soon as we were able to, we did that. Those phone calls, those conversations, being able to get to know each other, you attack that quick.
Dan, when you look at Ohio State, I mean, you were talking about there with you guys have some recruiting battles. You guys are two teams expected to be at the top, but it's a game that's already being talked about, the game in October. Does it feel like there's an opportunity to kind of grow a bit of a rivalry there, being two of the premier programs in the same conference now?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little early to know that, but certainly you get excited about playing in premier games when you're in this role.
How much of competed in a lot of games or a lot of big venues? You get to add the big house to that list this year. Just talk about your impressions of Michigan's program and that place.
Yeah, obviously a phenomenal team. There's a reason they, were able to win so many games last year, and they've done a great job building a program there. It's got a storied history. Should be one that we're really pumped to be a part of.
Not so many guys can say that they've been mentored by the greatest football coach of all time, arguably, and the guy that's running the team that's won 2 of the last 7 national championships. I don't know how often you reference them in everyday conversation with players, but how much does it help you to have those reference points? I know what I'm talking about here. These two guys are.
Yeah, luckily I don't think I have to do that too often, and I always kind of like talking about the future as opposed to the past. But for me, it's certainly been beneficial. I always talk about quality of experience over quantity. I'm certainly sitting in the seat in an earlier position maybe than others, but I was able to have some great quality of experience because of guys like that, in the past.
But you ever hear Nick Saban coming out of your mouth or Curtis Smart?
Yeah, I certainly feel those moments. Yeah, I certainly feel those moments. His leadership, the way he's came in and attack quickly, recognizing he has to connect with players.
Dan, real quick, when you did see Kirby's comments last week, was that just like a big chuckle for you?
Yeah, it was more like a moderate chuckle. It was like a moderate chuckle. Yeah, same. Looking into last year, if you came into our practices, you'd see Jackson Powers Johnson and went through a similar deal. It takes reps, it takes repetition. I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to handle that.
You talk about Dylan's leadership. How does
seem pretty composed, pretty unflappable here in this moment. We've seen that fire from you, whether it's on social media, on camera, on TV. What have you done to learn to
Yeah, I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I do think on the field that your players play with the same passion and energy that you put out there, and that's important for them to be able to see. But you also have to level set. And when does it actually, improve the performance, or what's the result that you want? And if there's a benefit from responding certain ways. And for me, I do a lot of risk assessment. Like when does that make sense, right? There are going to be moments where fire and passion are necessary, and then there's moments where that just creates chaos and it's not beneficial. So I guess I'm always thinking of the end game. You'd have to ask them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's flat very often.
talk about Dylan's leadership for someone who's coming in as a newcomer, even as a quarterback. Is it impressive the way he's kind of been able to emerge as a leader?
Yeah, and I think what I've told some other people today is Dylan's leadership. What makes it unique is I think he realized I don't need to come in here and start yelling at guys because the route's not deep enough or you're not running something right. He came in and he said, I'm going to attack relationships. I'm going to build relationships with the guys on our team. And he's done a good job of that, and then that'll probably lead into some more vocal leadership, a little bit more demanding on the field.
Dan, Oregon's been a national recruiter for a long time, and you've coached all over the country. Do you think that makes you better equipped to enter a league like this? It's very national now.
Yeah, I think certainly my experience, being at a place that is a brand, I think all those things add up and create an opportunity for success for us.
Why is this getting more vocal leadership something that you guys want?
Yeah, I think the comfortable thing in football is to lead by example, right? And Terrence has always been a guy that's done a phenomenal job of leading by example. But the reality is you need some guys that are vocal leaders on your team, and you're never going to see those hands shoot up, right? So I think our guys have to see that, understand how that impacts our team, and we have that now. We've created a lot of that this summer.
What are your expectations for Justin Jacobs to help you?
Yeah, Justin, has had a great offseason. He dealt with being, banged up from time to time for us early, and now seeing a healthy version of him, I think is going to be really exciting. I know he has some familiarity with this conference as well, so being able to go into some of these venues and places that he's been before, understanding the type of play that exists here, I think will be a benefit for him.
What are your thoughts it'll be like October 12th?
Should be exciting. Yeah, in fact, I know it'll be exciting.
What's unique about Ohio State?
Well, the fans, anything, it's about the people, right? And we have passionate people, passionate fans, but there's some great traditions there, whether it's shout after the third quarter or, just the intensity that our fans operate with. I think all those things add up.
You talked earlier about building a team to win at the trenches late in the season, but was Oregon built that way when you got there, or was that a shift?
I think in places, I think they had a strong offensive line when I first got there. I think there were some moments of growth for the defensive line, and I think that we're a lot closer to that now, what that picture looks like.
Who came up with the phrase "the grass is damn green"?
Me, I guess, but I certainly am not getting. I'm not. I don't think I'm getting paid for it. No. Somebody's getting paid for it.
Pick two more guys. How much do you think, relative to you as a coach, helps you come up with players?
I think genuine people are genuine people, right? And if you have that and you actually have an interest in knowing what other people think, what makes them tick, how they operate, then that doesn't really matter how old you are. Certainly, I can probably relate to a NBA YoungBoy song a little bit better than maybe some of these other guys, right? But that's not going to be the difference in a win or a loss for us as long as you're authentic when it comes to relationships.
You talked about the national brand and recruiting nationally. How difficult is it to maintain a base of where you want to recruit from, specifically the West Coast, while also touching areas that are loaded with high school talent, Texas, Florida?
Yeah, like anything, it takes work, right? It takes work. And, the great thing about the guys that we are recruiting right now, a lot of people grew up and this was their dream school. It's become a school that has created prominence because of that stage that it's on. So you'd be surprised when you walk into a home in New Jersey or you walk into a home in Miami or the DMV or wherever that might be, St. Louis, Missouri, that there is an affinity for our school. And then it's about that process of quickly identifying, okay, how realistic is this and does it fit? Do they fit us and do we fit them?
Where does that affinity come from?
Last one, guys.
Where does that affinity come from these kids that are now 18, 19?
Yeah, I just think that growing up around the sport and seeing guys like Marcus Mariota or Penei Sewell or the guys that they've been able to see on a national stage, LaMichael James, DeAnthony Thomas, I think that exposure that's been created, through the university, I think has made that a possibility. Thank you.